That day, the air in the hallowed halls of the United States Senate was thick with an unseen charge, a silent hum of anticipation. What was expected to be a routine oversight session of the Judiciary Committee quickly transformed into something far more gripping, a raw, unscripted drama that would echo far beyond the marble chambers. Senators filed in, a practiced ballet of power, while reporters below the audience section jostled for prime positions, their cameras constantly panning, hungry for any tremor in the placid surface of political discourse. Yet, for those attuned to the subtle shifts, the atmosphere felt like the heavy, pregnant quiet before a truly spectacular, unseen storm. The heart of this brewing tempest sat Senator John Kennedy, the Republican from Louisiana. He was an unassuming figure at the table, pen in hand, but his eyes, glinting with a mischievous spark, hinted at a mind ready to strike. Across from him, poised as a witness to answer questions about turbulent times when he led the House Intelligence Committee, was Adam Schiff, the seasoned Democratic politician from California known for his gravitas and sharp intellect. The stage was set, the tension palpable, a coiled spring waiting for release. When the gavel struck, signaling the start of the hearing, everything seemed set for the usual round of pointed questions and carefully crafted answers. Senator Kennedy began, his voice calm, asking about Schiff's intricate role in the contentious investigation into Russian election interference. It was a predictable opening, a standard political maneuver. But then it happened. The air seemed to crystallize, every breath held captive as Schiff leaned toward the microphone, his voice slicing through the stillness, cold with an unmistakable hint of disdain. Senator Kennedy, Schiff began, each word a deliberate blow. Frankly, you don't deserve to be here. You're nothing but a thug disguised as a man in a suit, putting on a cheap circus act. A collective gasp echoed through the room, a visceral reaction that rippled outwards. Aides sat motionless as if struck by lightning. Cameras zoomed in on Schiff's face, capturing every nuance of his contempt, each syllable creating a dramatic and utterly unexpected scene right in the heart of the Senate. The world seemed to freeze, but Kennedy didn't flinch, not an inch. Instead, a slow, almost imperceptible smirk began to form on his lips, a hunter calmly sizing up his prey before striking. The room fell silent, so utterly still that time itself seemed to stretch and distort, holding its breath for 5, then 10 long seconds. It was in this profound, pregnant pause that a subtle but irreversible shift took place. Before we dive deeper into Senator Kennedy's razor-sharp response that turned the tables in an instant, leaving even his fiercest opponents stunned, let us ask you, where are you watching this story unfold from? Your comments and insights fuel this journey for truth. And please, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it so you won't miss the unfolding chapters of this unforgettable moment that spread everywhere for entirely deserved reasons. Now, let the story continue. The silence in the Senate chamber was not empty. It was a drumbeat, counting the seconds that stretched into an eternity. All eyes, those of senators, aides, and the press corps alike, were fixed on Senator John Kennedy. He hadn't just not flinched, he had tilted his head, that smirk playing on his lips, a man unbothered, even amused, by the venom directed his way. It was the calm before a different kind of storm, one that would not erupt in shouts, but in the piercing accuracy of truth. Then, he leaned toward the microphone. His voice, that warm, unmistakable Louisiana drawl, cut through the tension like a finely honed blade. Senator Schiff, he began, each word deliberate, measured. You call me a thug. In Louisiana, sir, that's a compliment if it comes from someone obsessed with chasing Russian ghosts while your constituents struggle to survive under bridges in Oakland. A murmur, a collective ripple of surprise, swept through the chamber. Kennedy didn't miss a beat. His gaze swept the room, not lingering, but touching everyone, each word a flame scorching the silence. You, who've sat in Congress for decades while California drowns in homelessness. You, who've preached about democracy on TV while veterans in your state can't even get a decent meal. The murmurs intensified. A pen, somewhere in the audience section, dropped to the floor, its soft clatter echoing loud enough for all to hear, a punctuation mark in the escalating tension. Schiff shifted slightly in his chair, his face betraying clear discomfort and a flash of irritation. The composure he'd held moments before, fueled by disdain, began to crack under the unexpected precision of Kennedy's counterattack. Kennedy, seeing the shift, lowered his voice, each word now landing like an undeniable blow, heavy and inescapable. "You have no right to call me a thug. Not when you sit there preaching about justice while tens of thousands of Californians live in tents and Oakland's children grow up without a shred of hope." Schiff's face blanched. He made a visible attempt to interject, to regain control. But the chair immediately raised a hand, firm and unyielding. "Let him continue." Kennedy didn't wait. He placed a file on the table, opening it slowly, almost ceremoniously, as if unveiling the truth page by painstaking page. "This," he announced, holding up a document, "is a public report, but it seems to have been forgotten for too long. It shows that when Oakland pleaded for federal funding to address the homelessness crisis, you didn't lift a finger to help." Gasps of astonishment rippled through the room. "You claim you're protecting the nation from Russia," Kennedy continued, his voice unwavering. "Meanwhile, over 60,000 people in your state live on the streets." Schiff clenched his fists beneath the table, trying and failing to hide his discomfort. "That's not all," Kennedy pressed on. "Public records from your House Intelligence Committee show senior officials denying direct evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia. Yet you went on TV, insisting you had proof, stirring up chaos nationwide." In the audience, a young woman, whose plea for help had once gone unanswered by Schiff's office, gripped the armrest of her chair so tightly her knuckles widened. A reporter, whispering into a hidden recorder, muttered, "That was a heavy hit." Then Kennedy softened his tone, almost to a whisper, yet his words carried more weight than any shout. "Call me whatever you want, Senator Schiff, but today, the people will see your true face." He held up a crumpled letter with a faded postmark. "This is a letter from Sarah, a single mother in Oakland. Sent to your office twice, begging for help for her son." Not a single reply. Murmurs grew louder. One of Schiff's own aides bowed their head, avoiding eye contact. "You call me a thug," Kennedy said, staring directly at Schiff, "but a thug doesn't abandon the people they promise to protect. They don't hide behind flowery speeches while Oakland's families struggle day after day." Schiff reached for the microphone again, his hand hovering, but he couldn't muster a word. Kennedy continued, his tone now firmer, a clear declaration. "Of purpose, I'm here to speak the truth, not to be insulted. And I won't stay silent when you dismiss hard-working Americans with empty rhetoric and indifference." Before the silence could fully settle, reporters, energized by the unexpected turn, rushed out to file breaking news. Within minutes, the video of Kennedy's response flooded social media platforms. A teenager in Oakland, watching the clip on their phone, choked up and said, "He's speaking for my mum." On cable news, the confrontation quickly became the focal point. Fox News called it a pinnacle Senate showdown, while CNN described it as a shocking, unforgettable moment. But inside the Senate chamber, Kennedy remained utterly composed, as if unaware of the tidal wave of emotions surging outside. He calmly placed another set of documents on the table, preparing for the next wave of truth. The click of documents being carefully placed on the polished table by Senator Kennedy was the only sound in the charged stillness of the Senate chamber. The buzz of reporters scrambling outside, the sudden social media storm, all of it seemed distant, irrelevant, compared to the quiet, devastating truth that was about to unfold. Kennedy's gaze was steady, unwavering, as he looked directly at Schiff, not with anger, but with the profound disappointment of someone witnessing a betrayal. "This file," Kennedy began, his voice deep and resolute, resonating with a quiet authority that transcended the usual political bluster, proves that federal relief funds for Oakland's small businesses were redirected right after a call from Senator Schiff's office. Schiff shifted, visibly shaken, his earlier disdain replaced by a growing unease. In the second row, a man who had sent countless unanswered pleas to Schiff's office for assistance could no longer hold back. Tears streamed down his cheeks, a silent, public testament to years of unheeded calls. It was a raw, unfiltered display of pain, amplified by Kennedy's continuing words. Today, Kennedy spoke, his voice tinged with emotion, like the sigh of someone carrying an invisible burden. "The people here have longed to hear for so long. The people of your state place their full trust in you. Resilient mothers line up for hours to receive food rations while you appear on television preaching about democracy and justice. Senator, that's not leadership. That's betrayal." Schiff sat in silence, lips pursed tightly, unable to find a response. His usual quick wit and articulate defenses seemed to have vanished, leaving only a hollow space in their wake. Then Kennedy delivered a statement that left the room utterly, profoundly still. "Senator, this isn't personal. This is real pain. I grew up in Louisiana where people know what it's like to struggle every day. When you turn your back on your own people just to chase the spotlight, who will stand up and speak for them? A young reporter in the audience who had lived in Oakland and knew its struggles intimately couldn't hold back tears, whispering into a still active microphone, "I never thought a Republican could move me like this." Kennedy turned to the audience, his gaze deeper and more sincere than ever. This isn't just about Washington. This is about the mothers in Oakland who have to bury their children while the leaders they elected are busy boasting on television. His words rang out slowly, each sentence clear and deeply personal. In Louisiana, I've seen families struggle every day for a single meal. No one called to check on them, no one cared. And now, when I see that same pain still present in the neighborhoods you claim to represent, Senator Schiff, I have to ask you, what have you done for them all these years? Schiff blinked rapidly, his lips tightly closed, a dam barely holding back a torrent of unspoken thoughts. Kennedy then, with a deliberate solemnity, pulled out a handwritten letter. This, he announced, his voice soft but resonant, is from an 11-year-old girl named Sarah. She wrote to your office twice, Senator, begging for help to get her grandmother a decent place to live. No one responded. Kennedy proceeded to read the letter aloud, describing a roach-infested home, no hot water, and a sickly grandmother unable to climb stairs. When he finished, half the room quietly, instinctively, wiped away tears. I came here today, Kennedy concluded, his voice unwavering, for Sarah. Schiff tried to stay composed, but his voice trembled as if on the verge of losing control. Senator Kennedy, this is just political theater. You're exploiting children's stories to smear me. But Kennedy didn't let him finish. He swiftly pulled a photo from his sleeve, holding it up for all to see, an image of Schiff at a glamorous San Francisco event, praising criminal justice reform efforts. What few know, Kennedy said, his voice now commanding, is that same. Yeah, over 60% of Oakland's affordable housing funds were transferred to out-of-state investors, not to local residents. The large screen behind him lit up, displaying a stark series of reports, emails, and cold, hard statistics about California's deepening homelessness crisis, all revealing Schiff's shocking indifference to the very people he represented. A young aide of Schiff's, visibly trembling, dropped a file and hurriedly rushed out, unable to bear witness to the dismantling of their boss's carefully constructed image. You didn't just fail your people, Kennedy lowered his voice, each word landing like an undeniable verdict. You abandoned them. You stood on their pain to build your own glory. He paused, taking a deep breath, his gaze stern yet utterly sincere. I don't enjoy doing this. This isn't revenge. This is facing the truth. I ask that the public reports from Oakland organizations, clearly showing Senator Schiff's office ignored hundreds of pleas from constituents about housing and jobs, be entered into the hearing record, Kennedy requested, turning to the chair. The chair, visibly affected by the preceding testimony, nodded in agreement without hesitation. Immediately, on the massive screen behind Kennedy, a shocking report appeared. Rows upon rows of data, indisputable and damning, dozens of calls from the community marked as forwarded straight to an unchecked voicemail. No follow-up, no response, just silence. Adam Schiff sat there, his shoulders slumped, eyes vacant as if every ounce of vitality had been drained from him. It was a picture of a man realizing, in the harsh glare of public scrutiny, just how deeply he had failed. He seemed to shrink physically under the weight of the undeniable evidence. Kennedy looked toward the audience, his voice steady, carrying the weight of the forgotten. If this is the model of representation, then our people deserve better. Our country deserves better. Then unexpectedly, he looked directly at Schiff, his voice devoid of malice, yet sharp with profound conviction. I hold no grudge, Senator, because this isn't about grudges. It's about the truth. And the truth begins when the lies leave. The room echoed with soft applause, a quiet but powerful resonance, mingled with stifled sobs. A subtle but profound shift had taken place, not out of hatred, but out of truth and the undeniable power of exposure. Outside the hearing room, at a community center in Oakland, veterans and homeless residents gathered around an old TV connected to a tablet. When Kennedy reread Sarah's letter, a 78-year-old woman named Clara, living on meager benefits, burst into tears. "That little girl lives in my neighborhood," she whispered, clutching her chest. A man stood up, his voice choked. Schiff abandoned as long ago. Kennedy's words were not just politics. They carried the real pain, the lived experience of suffering. Back in the hearing room, Schiff remained silent, his eyes pensive, his gaze searching for a way to hold himself together against the tidal wave. Aides whispered anxiously, lawyers tensed, and the Democratic senators on the opposite dais, who had moments ago seemed so aligned with Schiff, unexpectedly fell eerily quiet. Kennedy continued, his voice deep and resolute. "This isn't just a partisan fight. This is the pain of forgotten people, a pain that spans generations. And today, it has finally been given a voice." He stood, adjusted his suit jacket, and placed a hand on the table, as if to remind himself of his grounding. "I'm not a polished man, not born into wealth or elite schools. I'm a Louisiana man, raised among people fighting poverty, watching my family struggle for every meal." The room seemed to hold its breath. "When you call me a thug, I understand what you mean. You're not calling me a criminal. You're talking about the cry of poverty. You're talking about honest, working people. You say I don't belong here, where my mother prayed I'd reach." A young senator who once doubted Kennedy bowed his head to the table. Another female colleague gripped her pen so tightly it snapped in half. "I stand here today," Kennedy concluded, his voice unwavering, "a United States Senator, not because of corruption or power, but because I never stopped trying, even when the world said I didn't belong here." The audience was hushed, many with tears in their eyes. "So no, Senator Schiff, I'm not a thug. I am the voice of every person you've forgotten." Schiff reached for the microphone, his hand trembling slightly, the initial confidence seeming to vanish in the wind. But before he could speak, Kennedy cut in, his voice gentle but sharp as a blade. "Don't speak yet, sir. Just one question. When was the last time you walked Oakland's streets without cameras trailing you? When was the last time you sat with a homeless person without a speech in hand?" The question was like a razor-sharp dagger, piercing through the hypocrisy and distance of power. Schiff fell silent. He couldn't answer. Kennedy then placed a photo before Schiff, taken at a memorial for a teenager named Jamal, shot dead in a shooting in Oakland. Schiff had promised reform, but nothing changed. "You forgot him," Kennedy said, not with anger, but with deep regret. "But his mother hasn't forgotten you." The cameras captured Schiff stunned, silent, and for the first time, visibly ashamed. When the hearing paused, the hallway overflowed with reporters, aides, and a stunned audience. Did Kennedy just dismantle Schiff's entire career without raising his voice? A Senate staffer whispered. An NBC reporter stood frozen, replaying the clip on their phone. Even political opponents were moved, not by scandal, but by truth. In a break room, two former Schiff aides sat quietly, eyes red. One, a young man named Marcus, spoke up. "Everything Kennedy said, we saw it. I used to believe in him." The other replied, "Until we were told not to answer letters from the slums because they didn't matter." Kennedy sat alone at his table, leafing through letters from Oakland and San Francisco, his hand trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the immense weight of those pains. The break ended, and Schiff entered, slowly, eyes downcast, the full weight of the confrontation settling upon him. The chair, sensing the profound shift in the room, granted Senator Kennedy the final word. The chamber was now deathly silent, all eyes fixed on him. Adam Schiff's chair notably remained empty, a silent testament to his retreat, or perhaps his defeat. Kennedy looked directly at that void, his voice gentle but resolute, carrying the echo of every forgotten voice. "I've been called a thug," he began, "but the truth is, I've never abandoned anyone, never promised what I couldn't keep. I don't have decades of political experience like him, but I have the tears and voices of the forgotten." He whispered, his voice choked but steadfast, "and I won't let those tears fall in vain." The room fell utterly still. Then, one by one, people stood. There was no loud applause, no raucous cheer, but a quiet, unified understanding. A wordless yet immensely powerful strength permeated the air. Then, remarkably, Democratic Senator Lisa Monroe from the opposite bench stood, her eyes red, her voice trembling. "I'm not here to praise Senator Kennedy or to polish anyone's politics," she stated, her words breaking through party lines. "What he did transcends those calculations. This is real pain, the pain of millions of people we've sometimes forgotten while chasing power games. As a public servant, I too have forgotten that pain. Party lines seemed to dissolve in that poignant moment, replaced by a shared recognition of a deeper truth. The hearing chair, voice heavy with emotion, said solemnly, "Today, we didn't witness a political victory. We witnessed a victory of conscience and morality." Within 24 hours, murals appeared across Louisiana streets, quoting Kennedy, "You may hold power, but we, the ones carrying pain, know that pain outlasts all politics." In Oakland, a group of teens painted that same mural on a community center wall, a vivid, powerful reminder of the resilience of the forgotten. Investigative agencies, spurred by Kennedy's public revelations, began reviewing the documents. He made public undeniable accusations of governmental indifference. A former close aide of Schiff, anonymity abandoned, appeared on television, eyes admitting, "We stopped serving the people long ago." No one dared speak up until John Kennedy did. Social media erupted, spreading thousands of stories from Louisiana to California. For the first time, people felt their voices were heard. Kennedy couldn't save an entire community in one day, but he saw them, and that alone was enough to spark hope, to make ordinary people feel their value and dignity again. That night, as the clamor subsided, Kennedy sat alone in a small room, a dim yellow light illuminating his pensive face. Before him was a small, unaddressed note in familiar handwriting. "I don't expect forgiveness, but now I understand. I'm sorry." Kennedy leaned back, not in triumph, but in a profound peace of the soul, the peace that comes from acknowledgement and the courage to face the truth. He issued a final statement to the press. "I didn't come to Washington to argue. I came to speak the truth. If that truth brings hope, even to one child, one elder, one broken family, it was worth it. I was called a thug, but I responded as a human. And sometimes that's the greatest strength." The story of Senator John Kennedy confronting Adam Schiff in the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing reflects pressing issues in American society today: the disconnect between leaders and the people, the crisis of trust in politics, and the undeniable power of truth. Through Kennedy's raw, empathetic exposure of Schiff's indifference to Oakland's homeless and unfulfilled promises to people like Sarah or Mrs. Ellen Carter, this narrative underscores that power without responsibility leads to community suffering. Sarah's letter, the dilapidated homes in Oakland, and Mrs. Clara's tears at the community center symbolize the forgotten, those abandoned by the political system. Kennedy, with his witty yet incisive style, not only challenged Schiff but also ignited hope by turning on the light to the truth, as he so powerfully said. Rather than seeking revenge, the profound lesson from this story for every American in real life is to dare to speak up and act for justice, even when facing formidable power. Like Kennedy, we don't need grand titles to make change. A letter, a call, or a story shared on social media can awaken a community. We learn from Mrs. Ellen Carter, who overcame hardship to attend the hearing just to be heard, that persistence and presence can change the narrative. Ultimately, as Kennedy emphasized, truth and dignity are the foundation of a just society. In our daily lives, let us listen to people like Sarah, support our neighbors, and prioritize responsibility over fame. That's how we rebuild trust and heal America's wounds, one act of compassion and truth at a time. Stay tuned to spread the truth and honor voices like Sarah and Mrs. Ellen Carter. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story moved you, please like, share, and comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that matter.